Hey, happy Thursday, everybody. This is going to be such a fun night. You know, I have spent years and years helping guide people from hurts to healing through many ways. And, we don't concentrate too much on men. And I just thought it would be so fun. Father's Day is in June. Graduation is right around the corner. And of course, all the men in our life have a birthday all year long. So I really felt called to bring y'all somebody that I have just really enjoyed getting to know. But more than that, is a powerhouse representing who we should be in Christ and then helping men build their faith. And I just think, there is nothing more powerful today. Men need a lot of help in this area. I think we do not connect men like we connect women. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Dale in here. And let's see, Dale, you're coming up. Hello, Dale.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Well, this is so great. We haven't known each other long, but we have the same publishing house. And Dale, I am really excited. I have two sons, 27 and 30. And I struggled for a lot of years to kind of wedge away to, bring something of faith that they might read, that they actually might read. And then I have a husband who, would love to have a great devotion. And I'm just going to put your devotion up here. Look at this, guys. This is his cover. And Dale, tell us a little bit about you and how this all came about.
Well, Dugout Devotions 2, as you mentioned, it launches Monday through New Hope Publishers, Iron Stream Media. It is Dugout Devotions 2, which means before there was a 2, there was a 1, right? So 2 years ago, we published. I had the original Dugout Devotions, and it went really well. It was in the general market, it was in the Christian market, and it went so well that they wanted a volume 2. And we were very excited about that because that meant I had to go do more research. And what I meant by research is that I would actually, go to Major League Baseball games and talk to a lot of players about, their faith and get their stories of inspiration and motivation from them personally. They were all personal interviews. So everybody in this book, I interviewed them. And there are a couple exceptions. I had a couple of authors contributed. Scott McCausey had a couple of ones that he tossed in, which we're very grateful for that. So most of these interviews, I did them personally and with some of baseball's biggest names. So it was a lot of fun doing it as well.
Well, you know what I love about it, Dale, is we talked about this the other day, that you talk about life on the field and off the field. I mean, right. Challenges that we all face. I mean, Just because you're a professional athlete doesn't mean that you don't have the struggles that we all do, right?
Yeah, and that was one of the main takeaways from the book, because I was on a lot of interviews, and they would always ask me, "What did you take away?" And I took away that they're just like me, other than the fact that they, they're high profile, make a lot of money, so they have issues too. And,
I'm laughing about they made a lot of money, Dale. That's
they made a lot of money.
Yeah, they made a lot of money.
But on the other end, they're gone a lot. They're away from their family a lot, so they travel a lot. So they're not home when their son or daughter is at a play or at a game or a major event. So they're gone. They miss all that. So there's give and takes to both of that.
Well, Dale, what would you say was one of the greatest struggles that most men, and I'm not trying to, put words in your mouth, right. But as you talk to men, is there a struggle with balancing, faith with the real world? Is it balancing the family and their career? What would you say?
A lot of it was identity, because a lot of them are put on a pedestal. And a lot of them, they look at it as, they have a lot of people wanting their autographs, their pictures with them, their time with them. They walk out of the clubhouse after, to go get on the bus, and there's a line of people wanting their picture with them. So it's identity that's a lot of them they don't struggle with. A lot of them put it into perspective that, hey, I'm just a guy. I'm playing a game. This is my job, and they have to watch being put on that pedestal, that they don't feel that they don't let that pedestal overtake them and make them realize that they're bigger than who they are. So a lot of them have to battle that. A lot, but a lot of them keep it into perspective. The ones that are grounded in faith, they just say, you know what, I'm just a normal guy playing a ball game.
Wow. Do they have any kind of nuggets in their personal lives? I mean, do they journal? Do they have a prayer room? What do men do uh, from your experience, Dale, on a personal level that helps keep their faith, in check?
Most of the teams have a team chaplain, and a lot of them will have services. Like on a Sunday, they'll have a service there at the ballpark prior to the game. A lot of them will go to that. They do have Bible studies that are available. So that's a big part of it. It's not, it's not all the teams do that, but a lot of them do. A lot of them have team chaplains. So, and a lot of them have mentors, and they do have Bible study groups. I was talking to Curtis Granderson about that, and he says, we have a little devotional group that, we welcome anybody into it, but it's just a core group of guys who, a couple times a week will get together and read scripture and pray with each other. And I think one of the best ones that I was talked to about was Clint Hurdle, who's the former manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Clint's a friend of mine, and he said that he has this little board of directors that he meets with monthly, made up of men who hold him accountable, and they hold each other accountable. They will meet for coffee once in a while, and they'll just talk about their struggles and talk about things they have problems with, and they hold each other accountable, not to give in and not to go in a different direction. So that's a big part of it. He calls it his Mount Rushmore of men, that they hold each other, they hold each other's feet to the fire.
Well, that can be applied. You don't have to be a professional athlete, ladies, tonight. If you're listening, I see that you are. And please, if you have questions, feel free to ask Dale, because I am curious. We don't have a lot of men, but Dale, that's a huge nugget tonight for all of us to encourage the men in our lives to have either accountability partner that's a faith believing person, or maybe even have a small group or gather one to help, because men are like women. We weren't designed to do this alone.
Right. Well, one of the person who wrote the foreword for this book she's been published by Ironstream Media. Her name is Billy Joust. Her husband is a bench coach for the Mets.
Wow.
Dave is in this book. I was able to interview Dave, and Billy also. A lot of times the wives will travel, not on the team, but they'll travel with the team. So a lot of them will have their families with them if they're in that position. If they have kids back home, it's tougher. So some of them do have their spouses go with them, and so they're not totally away from them all the time. So I think that's a core system. I know Billy wrote a great foreword for this book, and then her husband Dave had a great devotional about how he let his identity take over at one time, and how their marriage really got put back together. So it's a great story in this book about how they love each other.
So let's talk about the book, because we've got the cover up. Tell us, this is the second edition, so tell us about the first and now the second, would you?
Yeah, they're pretty much the same, other than different people. The first book, they got devotions, inspirations from MLB's best. Again, they just have a lot of stories from recognizable names in Major League Baseball. I'm talking like Clayton Kershaw, Cy Young Award winner, Albert Pujols, multiple Most Valuable Player.
Yeah.
Aaron Judge, the Rookie of the Year from the New York Yankees, and just the list goes on and on and on of Brian Dozier. I had a great interview with Brian. So, and it was a lot of fun to write. Has Ben Zobrist from the Chicago Cubs in it. So, these aren't just people that don't play. These are superstars, and I was able to spend time with them and get them to tell me what what struggles they face, or who inspired them, or who do they look up to, or what was a great story that they remember growing up as a kid, and what struggles did they face. Um, and so it went so well that New Hope reached out, and Iron Stream said, "Hey, would love a volume two of this book." So I went and met with some other players in this book. I still have some of the, I still had some from Albert Pujols and some from Clayton Kershaw, because those are two of the game's biggest names. But I was also just able to sit down in Dugout Devotions 2 and spend some time with Tim Tebow, because Tim played, minor league baseball with the Mets. So we're able to spend some time with Tim. So my stories about Tim Tebow are in Dugout Devotions 2, which we're really excited about, because he's hard to get to, and he's hard to get time with. But I was able to get about 5 minutes with him, and that's long enough. His conversation, he and I's conversation, I was able to get 3 devotions out
Wow.
of that conversation with him. And he's also featured in First Down Devotions 2, which is the NFL version, which will be out in August.
So this one releases Monday.
Uh-huh.
And then the other one releases when?
I think August 9th or something like. I think it's August 9th-ish, maybe. I forget. I think it's 9th of August. That's first.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're excited.
Well, listen, what's neat about this, Dale, too, from my perspective, and I know for many people that are listening and will listen in the replays, is, these role models, they are professional athletes.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily tie in spirituality and Christianity with these guys. Mm-hmm. And so this also gives role models, to men, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, because they, our society places these people up on pedestals that we do look up to them. I mean, I was a sports writer. There was guys that I admired, that I wanted to talk to, and not necessarily be like, but I admired their work ethic. So this book, Dugout Devotions and Dugout Devotions 2, is not so much about baseball. You're not going to find baseball stories in here. I just happen to use well-known baseball players to illustrate struggles you go through, and I go through, and they go through, and how they handled it. So it's trying to get that point across, and hopefully to younger men who may read this, who may look up to a guy like Tim Tebow or Clayton Kershaw or Albert Pujols and say, you know what? They went through the same thing I'm going through, and this is how they handled it. If they can handle it this way, so can I. So it's hopefully meant to motivate and inspire anybody, but our main focus is your young high school, college player.
Wow. I've got a few questions coming in. One was that they love Albert Pujols.
Yeah.
And his wife, listen to this, Dale, his wife, Dee Dee, cooked with me on my talk show in Nashville.
Yeah.
So Dee Dee and she got so upset with me. You'll love this story. I cut a pepper. We were doing peppers because we were doing some kind of wonderful cuisine. I don't remember exactly, but was it Cuban? Probably. I don't know. But anyway, so I was cutting a bell pepper, and I cut the top out, pull it out, and it takes all the seeds with it. And she'd never seen that done. So they're great people. And I was going to say something else about them. They are the most generous couple. Oh, they help so many people.
And we Albert talked to me about that. He said when he, first met her, that when he came into the league, he wasn't a believer, and she was a big influence on him. And she was the main reason that he ended up becoming a Christian, was because of her. So we had a good conversation up in Cleveland. I think we met up in Cleveland.
Well, they're a great couple. Yep. Deb is asking, I'm glad he's got one coming out with football. She says, if many women read the book for insight? That's a good question.
I don't know that. I can just go know of what I hear. And what I hear from people is that mostly women buy this, and they give it to their husbands or their sons or even their daughters. So we're finding that's to be true, that the main targeted audience was men, but the main purchasers of this book have been women, which we've been very fortunate and very humbled, because this book has really hit It's hit in the general market and in the Christian market, and it's hit close to 10,000 books sold. So it's really making a difference out there.
I think that's great. We've got another
Yeah.
question. Is there a Bible study or journal that goes along with the Dugout devotions?
There's not a journal per se part in it. It is it's a 30 chapter book, and now we have some others that have journaling aspects, but this did not have journaling aspects in it. So it doesn't mean you can't, take a pen and pencil and write it in yourself. But we give a story, a moment that the player went through. Then we give like a challenge, like this applies to you, and then we give a call to action. So
Wow.
and then there's 4 or 5 steps on what to do, or suggestions, and they're all biblically based on that, and is backed up via scripture. On this is how you handle things, and this is the steps you can do. Not everybody's perfect. You maybe try these things. So there are suggestions, and it's called the on deck is the life scenario. A step up to the plate is the call to action. What steps you can take.
That's awesome. So there's 30 stories.
30 chapters, Jen, in each book.
Oh, is each chapter a story?
Yeah, each chapter is its own individual story based on my interviews with players. They're all different. There's no set theme. The theme is just this is what these players went through, and this is how they faced challenges, and this is how they were motivated or inspired. One of my more favorite ones from the first one was my interview with Brian Dozier, and Brian at the time was with the Twins, and so he was high respected college player, a sure bet for the draft, and in his senior year he opted to stay back in college and finish his degree and play one more year in college because he was a sure bet, right? So early in spring training, he dives to make a play and busts up his shoulder. And he has 8 screws put in his shoulder. He's thinking, I've messed up what have I done? I've messed up my future. I should have went to the draft. So, like everybody else does, he was discouraged and he questioned God. He said, why did this happen to me? Because I'm doing everything right. I'm going to the pros, and now my shoulder's busted up. Who's going to want me? But he said during that year when he didn't play, he actually learned to be a leader, and he learned to encourage. He learned to help. He learned to instruct and to motivate. And then he was drafted the next year by the Twins and went on to be an all-star. But he told me, he said, that year when I didn't play was the most important year that he'd ever had because he developed leadership skills. So he questioned why, but later he found out why. And so I give that scenario, maybe you've lost your job, maybe your relationship's going south. You're going to question why, but in the end, you're going to find out why, and to keep being encouraging, to find your skills, find something you don't know that you had, and get through that time. So that's kind of like what this book deals with.
That is so powerful. I just, I love this, Dale. Again, one of the reasons is it's a simple read.
Yeah,
you don't have to be some theologian or.
I'm a simple guy.
I am too. I love that. Well, listen, somebody wants to know, do you have signed copies available?
I will.
Okay.
I could send a book to anybody, but I can do that. They can just reach out to me, and I will have some sent to me probably this week.
Okay.
And we can make arrangements. So you can just give them my contact, and they can reach out to me. It'll be on my website. But I'll also make arrangements. I'll do anything.
Okay, so let me ask you. When we were doing our podcast, I said, Dale, if you could leave us with something, and we're not quite at closing, but you said something powerful, and I hope I paraphrased it properly. But you said, Lane, you can't lose. I always talk about you can't lose unless you quit, and you said you can't quit until you win the fight, or something like that. It was just a nugget of encouragement. Can you tell me how I might have messed that up?
No, you probably got it right. I probably messed it up. But there's a slogan that I go to. In fact, I'm gonna go to when we're finished here, there's a gym right down the street, and there's this little slogan up there that says, when you think about quitting, think about why you started. And that's kind of powerful too. It's easy.
Say that again. Say that again.
when you think about quitting, think about why you started. So,
Wow.
because the end result. In fact, a good story about that is this book, actually, because this book, which was pitched to me, I didn't even think of this book. It was pitched to me by a publisher that I was new to the industry, and I didn't really know what he meant. And my agent and I got together, and he says they want you to write this book. I said, okay, great. So I spent the year, wrote the book, and then they turned it down. Right. The very publishing house that came to me and said, this is what we'd like, said no. So we waited a year. This book sat for a year, and then we went to the Florida conference, and then we met, New Hope Publishers and Iron Stream Media, and they loved it. They said, oh my gosh, we want this. So that year, kind of like Brian set out a year, I set out a year with this book after it was hyped up to me that we want this book. Then they said, we've changed our minds. We don't want to do it. So, and again, I was discouraged. I wondered, what in the world did I go through that for? And now I know, because New Hope Publishers, Iron Stream Media, they've done a great job with it, and it was the perfect fit. So, it's just time. It's hard to be patient. I'm not a patient guy, but I've tried to be.
Let me ask you something, Dale, before we end. I know probably one of the greatest questions and struggles that women come to me about is encouraging men to go to church, encouraging men to open the Bible, encouraging men to pray.
Yeah.
Could you speak to that? I mean, could you give us some inside plays on that? And how, if you're a man, which you are, thank you. How would you, what would you want maybe your wife, or how would you help us?
Well, there's a great story in Dugout Devotions 1, actually, that hits this, because he's a good friend of mine now. He was my son's high school baseball coach. He's now a scout for the Boston Red Sox. So this is a name people aren't going to know, right? So my books are mainly with people you know. There's a few people in there you're not going to know or recognize until you read the book. But Tim was a scout for Boston, and at the time when I did the story, the instance he talked about, he was not a churchgoer. He was not a believer. He believed in God, but he really didn't do a whole lot, didn't follow. So he was kind of a rough guy to be around at first. And he said, he was a really successful high school baseball coach, but he was hard on his players. I mean, hard on them. And he would yell at them a lot. And he said they'd win. He'd yell and scream at them and things like that. But he played in the majors for a brief time, and because he was bitter because Tommy John surgery ruined his pitching career, so he couldn't play. So he was bitter about baseball, and because it was short-lived. And so he became a coach. And then he said there was one year they had a really good team, and his players really didn't respond to him. But there were two high school players that would always take the team out to left field before a game, and they would all pray together. And he said he would sit there on the bench and watch them pray. And he said his blood would boil, because he's like, these players look up to those two kids more than me. Mm. But then he also took that as a life check, as a challenge. He says, why are they looking up to these kids? Because they're praying with them and they love them. So he decided to turn things around and give his life to God. And then he started going out and leading his team in prayer.
Wow.
So with men, I'm not saying all men, it's they're different. Men and women are different. Men, it's a pride thing. They like to be honored and respected, and if they feel honored and respected, I've told my wife, and I don't ever want to be catered to, but if I feel like I'm important, and I'll do anything, I'll go through a wall for you. And I think it's a point where they have to feel, the man has to make that decision. If they feel important, and if they feel that they're the leader, if they feel, and there's a difference between being a leader and being a dictator. You don't yell and bark things, but if you lead by example, but the man's got to want to do that. And sometimes when they see somebody else doing it, it kind of will nudge them a little bit. And if the wife or girlfriend can not badger, but just maybe plant a seed and let them do it. Because if the man thinks it's his idea, it's a great thing. But if he's led to believe that he's made to do it, he's probably going to fight back. So I'm just giving you my thoughts.
Well, I love that. And there's a statistic I want to share with everybody before we close.
Yeah.
It was by, I believe it was Pew, and they said that if a couple prays together 4 times a week. Now, listen, guys, when they said pray, it can literally be thank you for our food, amen. It can be going to church together because they consider that praying together. That they have a 10% chance of divorce. So if you are struggling out there, ladies, and your man is not connected, or you feel like he needs to pray or do more, I think one of the greatest things you can do is get this book, get this devotion. If he loves football, get it. If he loves baseball, get it. Then you say, honey, why don't you just read one of these a day for the whole month? And y'all, 21 days make a habit and 21 days break a habit. You've got 30 days of this. Man, this could powerfully change your husband if you got this book. So I tell you what, man, think about that, Dale. Think about that.
And something that's exciting is that this book is to be a series of 4. Now it's going to be 5 because actually we're submitting next week our children's version of this book. So it'll be reduced down. It's going to be called Sports Shorts, and it's going to be 52 chapters, and they're going to be interviews from Dugout and First Down, NFL and MLB combined into one book for kids. So we're looking forward to that.
Well, Dale, we can't thank you enough for stopping by tonight and being live with Lane and thanking us that, God is good and that God works through famous people. God works through ordinary people. The fact is God is working and moving and saving and miracles are happening. And thank you for taking that year and putting this on paper. I believe it's changing many people, thousands of men's lives. And everyone is just thanking you for coming by. And we'd love to see you in the fall with your new book.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. Again, that'll be in August. We'll be at CPE with you again, probably. And First Down Devotions 2 will be out. Again, big names at NFL. I mean, biggest names you can get. I talked to, again, Tebow. We talked to Ben Watson, who's a big name. We talked to a lot, Anthony Munoz, Kurt Warner. So a lot of big NFL names are in this book too. So we're excited about it and feel very fortunate to be in a position to do this. But and if the folks want the autographs, maybe they can reach out to you and you can reach out to me and you can put them.
I will. And yeah, we'll do that. One quick thing, I just got to tell you this encouraging note. One of my friends said, Deb said, even without a husband, I loved this tonight. Thanks. So I think that's a great way to end it, Dale. Thank you again. And y'all, see you next Thursday night live. I'm here for you. Remember, 1-833-PRAY-WME. I'll pray with you anytime. And, send me any prayer request. And I love y'all. And I'll see you next Thursday night. Bye, Dale.
Oh, I thank you.